Howdy y'all, Christi here with Little Salty Homesteader. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking with you about how you can use your kitchen scraps to help out in your garden. Stay tuned. So as I'm sure you figured out by now, gardening can be a little bit costly. By the time you purchase your seeds and your fertilizers and your soil and whatever method you're going to grow these things in, be it a container, a raised bed, or even in the ground, it gets to be a little bit spendy. But there are some kitchen scraps that you can use in your garden that will help cut the cost a little bit. Now these are not meant to replace your organic fertilizers. They are simply meant to help you with your overall soil health, and they will give your plant some benefits. But as I said, the things that we're going to talk about today aren't meant to replace anything. They're just supposed to help. So the first thing that I want to talk about is banana peels. If you guys have followed along with me on Facebook or Instagram, you know that I love banana water. So what this is a dog hair on the bottom of the jar from sitting on the ground. But what this is several banana peels put into a quart jar, covered with water. We're gonna let it sit for at least 3 days. After the 3 days, we dilute this, we drain off all of the water into a new clean container, and then we dilute it at a rate of 1 part of banana water to 5 parts of regular water. And what that is going to provide for your plant is it's going to give potassium and a little bit of phosphorus. And if you have ever read the back of the fertilizer bags, you'll know that fertilizers have N, P, and K values. Now N is for nitrogen, P is for phosphorus, and K is potassium. The biggest thing that's going to be boosted with the banana peels is the potassium value, which helps with flowering and fruit set. So all of your garden goodies that you are needing to set fruit with, like your tomatoes, your peppers, your eggplants, even your flowers themselves, so that you can get a boost in blooms, those will benefit from the banana water. Now, you don't want to pour it directly on the leaves. It is not a foliar spray. You want to pour it into the soil. What's going to happen is those little living microorganisms that are alive and, you know, doing their thing in your soil, is they're going to start to break down the potassium bits in that water. And then your roots will begin to uptake that potassium and then feed it to the rest of your plant. So you want to feed the soil, not the plant, because the overall soil health is what is going to make your plants healthier. I like to think of soil like your blood in your body. You want to put the good stuff into your blood so that it carries all of the proper stuff to the rest of your body. So feed the soil with the banana water. Now, I don't recommend doing it if you don't think your plants need it. One way there you can tell if your plants might benefit from a bit of potassium is obviously the soil test. You can do a soil test and it will tell you if you're deficient in any value at all: calcium, nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, anything. It's going to tell you. Another way that you can tell if you're not able to do a soil test or you're not quite sure how to do it, if your plant has yellow leaves down at the bottom, it might need a bit of a potassium boost. Also, if the plant leaves themselves, the older leaves, have brown veins or spots, they might benefit from some of the banana water. And then lastly, if your plant just completely stops growing, or it's growing super duper slow and you can't attribute it to this hellacious summer, then might also benefit from some potassium. So That being said, if you don't really want to do the banana water, because the smell after sitting for at least 3 days can be very strong, kind of pungent, it's almost like making banana wine in your kitchen, you can chop up your banana peels much smaller, dehydrate them and grind them to a powder, and then just add it to your soil that way. Or you can just put your banana peels in your compost bin. The second thing that I want to talk about is well, it's going to be eggshells and then coffee grounds. So these are going to be more helpful over time because remember just a few minutes ago I said those microorganisms in the soil are going to break down the organic matter. Well, eggshells, because they're 34% calcium, they're pretty hard and they do take a while to break down. So you're not going to see an immediate improvement in anything from the eggshells, and even with the coffee grounds, because they are you know, they're quite grainy, even with us grinding as fine as we do. So you don't want to just throw them in your garden like this, because this is going to take much longer to break down than if you break them up. So what I do is we eat a lot of eggs, so I just keep this bag in the freezer and I just add the eggshells to it every time I crack an egg. Even with my boiled eggs, I go ahead and I break the shells off into here, keep it in the freezer until the bag gets full, then I dump it out onto like a cookie sheet that's lined with parchment paper, and I bake it in the oven at 200 degrees for 2 hours. This is going to do a couple of things. This is going, first of all, it's going to kill off any sort of bacteria, bad pathogens, anything that could cause foodborne illness, because you certainly don't want to make your family sick from the stuff that you're working so hard in your garden to grow. And it's also going to make the eggshells a little bit more brittle so that they will grind up a little bit easier. And then after you take them out of the oven and they cool down, you can grind them down, and what I have here is almost a powder. Some of it is in powder form, and you will put whenever you plant your plants, you'll sprinkle a little bit into the hole, and then every couple of weeks you'll sprinkle it around the base of the plant. Some people say that it could help deter slugs and snails. Some people don't. I have not validated whether or not that is accurate science, so please don't take this as me saying this repels pests, please use it, because I do not know that. I do know that eventually it will provide a calcium source in your soil once those microorganisms finish breaking it down. I've heard that you can speed up that process a bit by mixing some vinegar into your ground up eggshells, but I have not done that. If I do that, I will do a follow-up to this to let you know how that works out. So the plants that will benefit from the calcium are going to be tomatoes, peppers, eggplants. The calcium helps those plants absorb the other nutrients in the soil. A lot of times whenever you get blossom end rot on your tomatoes, it's not necessarily because there's not enough calcium, it's because of sporadic watering, like not, you know, your watering isn't consistent. So with consistent watering, you may not even have a calcium issue, but if you are container gardening, it certainly wouldn't hurt to go ahead and add a little bit of crushed eggshells in there, just to help the soil along once it starts getting broken down. The other vegetable type that eggshells are useful for are going to be your brassicas, so broccolis, cauliflowers, even kale. Any of those, you know, winter vegetables that are high in calcium will benefit from the calcium boost given to the soil by the eggshells eventually. So crush them up into a powder as fine as you can, put it in the hole that you're planting your plant in, and then add a little bit more in every couple of weeks during the growth of that plant, and you should see some calcium benefits. Also, you can add it to your compost, but I suggest adding it this way too, because like I said, the eggshells do take a long time to break down if you leave them whole. And lastly, the last kitchen scrap that I'm going to talk about that you can use with your plants for plant health, for soil health, is coffee grounds. Coffee grounds provide a fantastic source of nitrogen. So all plants need nitrogen, but some need them more than others. So I wouldn't really use coffee grounds with your root vegetables like carrots or beets, but I would definitely use them with your leafy greens. Anything that has a lot of greenery, that you want to have a lot of greenery, I would definitely add coffee grounds. You can just mix it right in with your soil. Then every 2 weeks you can come back and add a tablespoon of used dried coffee grounds around the base of each plant. Water it in really well, and that will give your plants a huge nitrogen boost. Like I said, these 3 things are not meant to replace any fertilizers. They are simply an addition to help you create a healthier soil, because a healthy soil has lots of organic matter in it. And organic matter simply means stuff that was once living. So banana peels, eggshells, coffee grounds, all of that is going to contribute to that nice organic matter within the soil. The microorganisms will break it down, and then you'll have healthier soil, which in the end creates healthier plants. I don't recommend just using these 3 and saying that's it, that I don't need to do anything else. But I do recommend also, in addition, using compost that you can make at home. You can even buy compost. Earthworm castings is probably one of the best things that you can put in your garden. And lastly, organic fertilizers. I don't recommend using a synthetic fertilizer, because a synthetic fertilizer is going to kill all of the living things in that soil, and you're trying to create basically a soil ecosystem here. So I don't recommend, especially if it's blue, any synthetic fertilizers. I definitely recommend going the organic route. I know it costs more money, but in the long run, you're going to end up with healthier plants. So I know that, circling back to the coffee grounds, I'm so sorry, and I am all over the place, so my apologies. Circling back to the coffee grounds, if you do not drink coffee, but you would like to add coffee grounds to your garden, you can always ask your neighbors for their coffee grounds, or a lot of coffee shops will give away their used coffee grounds. So just go in there and say, hey, I'm a gardener, do you have used coffee grounds? And I'm sure that they will hook you up with a larger bag than you need for quite a while. And whatever you have left over, you can always add to your compost bin to use your compost for future planting and future fertilizing. And that is about it for this video. I know it's pretty relatively quick. I just wanted to give you guys a few quick options for using some of your kitchen scraps. Maybe you're not in an area where you can have a compost bin, but you don't really like throwing all these things away. Here's a little bit of a way for you to reduce waste. And I do have to say, my husband is the most patient man alive, because how many homes do you walk in where they have a bag of eggshells in their freezer and ground eggshells on the counter and fermenting banana peels on the other counter? So props to him for putting up with all of my weirdness whenever I say I'm gonna save this for the garden. But in the meantime, if you have any questions for me about any of this that we discussed today, please comment below. Until then, I hope you have a wonderful week, and I will see you next time. Bye!